Patty from the Mindz Eye, and I'm here today with Lyndsey Lefort. And she became a student of mine through a good friend of mine, Jeremy, who's a good friend of hers too. And we did a show with Jeremy as well. Mm-hmm. And I was so glad to see Lyndsey. We haven't seen each other. She does a lot more of her holistic teachings and readings and stuff like that through phone and electronics. So I haven't seen her much, but I think of her because I have her chairs in my room. When I sit in them, I think of you.
They're nice and comfortable.
Yes. And I want to ask you, just talk about how you got started in this, where your head decided.
I was old, and I had surgery, and I came out of surgery, and I started to see people that I thought were past. I didn't believe in this, and I thought everybody went up, to the sky and to see us there.
Yep.
And then my friend started to talk to me, and then I called Jeremy because he was the only one that I knew that was crazy like me. And he put me in touch with you, which was fantastic.
Who was as crazy as both of you put together,
which
right?
I was like, great. And then I started doing this. And
Excellent,
I knew there was something in it.
And I knew right away that there was something special with yours. And then you became scared of it for a little while, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't know if you were doing things that the other side wouldn't like, and you got quiet for a little bit.
I think I got so tuned in that I was hearing other people's thoughts and other people's feelings, and I was so busy paying attention to what was outside of me that I needed to spend some time within myself. So I did a lot of meditation and a lot of kind of just honing the skill and discernment.
Discernment, excellent. And then it wasn't too long, once you got rocking and rolling, then it was very quickly you opened up a space.
Yes.
Where was that space?
In Warren.
In Warren, mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they kept telling me to close the space right before COVID. And I was like, I don't want to close the space. I want to keep it open. And they're like, close the space. Just trust us to close it. And I saved a lot of money closing.
Absolutely, yep.
So
without a doubt, I'm sure that was a good decision just before COVID.
I said, they do know what they're talking about.
Yes. But you had already started to do an awful lot of yours and phone readings and stuff like that. So explain a little bit what you do in your readings.
So they're different every single time. Mm-hmm. It just is dependent on the person. I find in the very beginning, it was a lot of validation. And I think it was because I needed to be validated.
I did the same thing at the beginning, so I get it.
To understand that this was really happening. Otherwise, I might have checked myself in somewhere, and said, help me.
Right.
So sometimes I still am in disbelief that I'll go, I'll wake up and go, is this really real? Is this really? And it is. Every day I get shown, it is. It is,
It is. It's just, it's crazy the way it works that way.
And I feel like after the period of time that I took with meditation and the discernment that I learned what that word meant, and I also learned the difference between energies.
Tell them what that word means.
It's the difference between energies. It's the different, some things can be residual energy or energy that you've picked up and gave some momentum to, I feel like. And also people, before they transition, they have a lot of active energy, and you can pick up on that. So you could be telling stuff during a reading that has to do with this person's personality and them very much in a different place.
Perfect. And it is crazy because I have a lot of hospice nurses and stuff like that come to me that I have to help them learn how to disconnect.
Yeah.
Because they feel bad for the people that don't have any family that bothers with them.
Yeah.
So in turn, they end up being so connected to that person that they hold on to some of that energy after they pass.
Yeah.
And I had one girl, beautiful girl, and she wasn't able to have a baby. And she got checked, she and her husband, there was no issue. And it was because she was so loving to these people. They adopted her, and we had to do a clearing of the energy. And then I taught her how to do it herself. She called me up 2-3 months later and said I was a bad girl and I didn't do any of it. So I helped her again, and then 3 weeks later she was pregnant. And
Well, it's all in the mind too, and what you start. So you start that in your mind, and then you create
but
it.
she had a lot of energies that did not go directly up. And what they were doing is they didn't want to leave her. She was their safety net.
Yeah.
So all of them adopted her as a daughter, but this one man thought she was his girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? And they wouldn't leave her. And she couldn't understand her dog kept barking at her all the time. And I went to do a house clearing. And I said, I've never done this before, but could you lay down on your bed? I'm going to sit in a chair and I'm going to do something.
Because they guide you to do things.
I got told to do something, yeah. And sometimes you get guided.
Weird things.
Yeah. Sometimes could you please lay down on your bed? Her husband's going, I'm in the other room. Thank you very much. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we did that clearing, and she felt so much better, and the dog stopped barking at her, and that kind of stuff. So it is crazy when you're working with people's energies.
Well, I think we form an attachment to something, and that's how it comes in, is we are so focused on helping, or we feel bad, and then it kind of pulls it towards you instead of it feeling nice for yourself, and then you come in and clear it and restart, and then weeks go by, and then you go back thinking about it again and feeling it, and then it just gives it room to come back.
One of the things that I do is I do a chakra clearing.
Yeah.
Every Sunday, I do a chakra clearing. And in that chakra clearing, I also, I have asked the angels to cut any cords that I've had attached to me.
Yeah.
Because when we're doing this, you've got to be an empath to even do this work.
Yeah.
So if you're empathic, you're going to connect to that energy and take some of it with you if you're not careful.
Because you feel right into where the person is.
Now, you were telling me, you do much longer readings than I do.
Sometimes.
Sometimes some of your readings are really long. Sometimes mine are really long, too. I always joke with people that they wouldn't be there that long if I didn't like them.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I joke that.
It is true, though. If it wasn't interesting and if it's someone that's asking me the same question over and over again because they don't like the answer they're getting, then I have to cut them off.
That can feel very heavy.
It does.
Yes.
But if I've got someone that is like a sponge and really taking in the information, then I want to work with them forever.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Because it feels so nice.
I had a lady this week that I could have worked with forever. She was so cool, and that kind of stuff. So tell me, what do you work on? Just some ideas of what you work on with your clients.
So I use a lot with law of attraction and trying to shift energies into a focus point. And sometimes people are not happy. They want to know when's their mate coming, or when they're going to get a house or a new job and things like that. And I find a lot of times, instead of just, if you're clear about it, then I can get a clear answer. But I find if there's some steps to take or some unraveling, I would say, then I'm doing a lot of thinking about silly things, like let's talk about what feels good. So, if somebody's complaining about their husband for the last 10 years, and then they come to me and want to know if they should leave them, you want to feel better before you leave someone, because you're just going to attract that energy again, because then you're going to be sad. You're going to leave that person, feel lonely, and then you're going to go, well, now I feel all by myself, and you're not going to be happy. So you might as well be happy with what you can see there and then move on. Let it kind of follow the steps instead of ripping off a Band-Aid and making it yourself miserable and hurt in the process.
Right now, I think since COVID, we either had the couples made the babies or they split up.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a lot of split
up. Or they did both.
Both, yeah. But I've had a lot of couples that have split up during this. And I try to tell them they want someone right away, like a replacement partner.
Yeah, and you don't.
Whoa,
you don't.
Stop.
Yeah.
Because you've got to repair yourself.
Yeah.
Or you're going to attract the same stuff.
Well, you're going to undo a lot of thought that says I'm by myself, or I'm sad, or I need someone else, or you have to really feel like you're something to be in a partnership. Like, why does someone want to be with you rather than I need this other person?
and what the best thing is you get yourself strong enough so you don't need anybody.
Yeah.
So when they join you, it's
You're
because
happy.
you want them with you, not because you need them. And
Yes.
it makes for such a better
relationship.
A better relationship.
And you can be in enjoyment instead of, heartbreak.
Because I find too often I have too many people, like I said, they want to jump. They want 24 hours later to find the right person.
Yeah.
I'd rather wait 20 years.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes I waited all the years and found husband number 2 before I found
Well,
husband number 1.
I'm so happy now. I'm like, no. I'm so in enjoyment now because I spent a lot of time not in enjoyment wondering. So I can speak from firsthand advice that, 7 years, 8 years later is like the best place to be because you love yourself and you love your life so much that if someone comes to you in that space, they're going to be, and you see it from a mile away.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Because, people tell you about themselves in the first 5 minutes.
Right. And what it is, too, is you want to have, where you, as I said, you need to get yourself where you're attracting
Exactly.
a higher level, because other than that, you're doing the same lessons over and
Right.
over again.
Well, I did a lot of talking about my weight and what I look like, and maybe I'm not good enough, and maybe I'm not this or that or the other thing. And then I started to work with law of attraction, and I thought, because, once you are deliberately working with it, because we're always working with it anyway, so
Correct.
you might as well focus on it and change it if you're seeing a pattern. But so I did a lot of that, and I didn't even realize how often I was communicating these things to myself, and just in everyday, in an everyday way. Just, you go to the market and you're like, oh, I shouldn't eat this, or I shouldn't have that. Or you go for a walk and you're like, well, that really didn't do anything, or I don't really feel nice after that. And it's just those little things of changing. Or money was a huge thing, because the way I grew up was, money isn't everything, or, money's bad, kind of money is the root of all evil. I think we all kind of have this thought of, if you like money or you want it around, it's not good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, it's just paper. I said a lot of times, it's just paper. We just print this. It's just paper. Why are we so wrapped up in it? So I did a lot of, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It just comes and goes and things like that. And
Absolutely.
It changed.
And I had a girl that her favorite saying was, I only have $2 in my bank account.
Yeah, and it's such a...
And she was always broke.
Because it will.
I said to her, because this was a friend, so
Yeah.
sometimes you don't want to jump into the
Yes.
consulting line.
Yeah.
But finally I said to her, do you realize that because you keep saying it, that's why
Yeah.
you're always
Yeah.
broke?
Yeah.
And she stopped saying it, and it's flowing
Oh,
beautifully
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And
You don't
the law of
realize.
attraction is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, you don't realize. And or even when you're like, oh, this car payment is $300. Oh, I don't have enough to pay that. And you're not thinking that's really going to do anything. You're thinking, oh, I just thought I don't have enough to pay it. I have $250 and not $300. And each time that you do that, you're saying, I don't have enough. Mm-hmm. And it really has changed my perspective. But I always watch myself and go, oh, well, no wonder why that happened. And now I can actually laugh about it to where it's
And I'm the same
funny.
way. Well, I was laughing because I had a July that was just, money-wise, was a really good month for me. And July is not usually that good of a month for me.
Right.
And because people are busy at the beach
Yeah,
and
yeah.
traveling and stuff like that. But I had an excellent July. And so I booked a vacation, and I did this
Yeah.
and I did that. So of course, my plumbing all goes in my kitchen, my floor lifts, and the world, comes to an end. And I'm laughing, and people are saying, why are you laughing? And I said, this would have been so much
did
worse
that.
if I didn't have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it lines up
to
with it.
me, that I lined up the extra money, and I'm a great manifester, so I'll
Yes,
I'll
it'll
manifest
just
the money
come
for the
back
trip.
again, and it'll go
the
more and
rest
more
of
and
the trip
more,
money,
right?
I'll manifest it, baby. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
So I was laughing, and I had someone, this industry, that says, I can't believe, I have a gentleman that does astrology, and he said I had the most complicated chart he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And he's an astrologist, so he's done a lot of charts. And I looked at him, and he says, no, it's great because you learned how to make lemonade. And I loved that saying. And I
Yeah.
had one of the girls in the class got me a sign that I've learned how to make lemonade, a lemonade
Yeah.
sign. And I think that is really a wonderful thing, but I do that.
Yes.
And I have a daughter that I wish could learn. She's a great fix-it person like me, but she goes into the poor me's for three
Yeah.
hours
Well, it's hard
to
to come
3
out of
days.
that when you're in it. It's very difficult to, even if, I'm talking to someone and telling them, this is the way to do it, think about silly things, they're like, no. I mean, I told a woman to go sit in her backyard and look at birds every day. And she was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How is that going to have me feeling better? And I'm like, you'll see. Just wait 3 months and then call me then. Because right now I don't really want to talk to you because you're going to be mad at me because you get mad. Right. You get irritated because you're like, just tell me. And I also have been there, like, why don't you just tell me what to do and then I'll just do it so then I can be happy. And you have to be happy first, which is funny. It's kind of...
Well, I had to laugh. I had a gentleman that I worked with in the corporate world, but I tended to, and he was like, he was one of these that he wanted to learn how to meditate, and he couldn't learn how to do any of this stuff. So I'd give him little exercises to do. And my favorite exercise, he had a beautiful 2-year-old son. And I told him that I wanted him to take him for a walk every day, even if it's for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And every day I wanted him to notice something that he didn't notice on the walk the time before. And it got him on the right side of the brain and in a better place. And then he could meditate. And then he found himself opening up to some of this stuff too. And he's a Wall Street kind of guy. So he's so in the brain.
Analytical,
And later on, learning some of these things helped him because he ended up getting Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And it went into remission by doing a lot of this healing and drawing the right stuff to you and law of attraction and getting on the right side of the brain and stop being so uptight all the time.
Wasn't it funny how your body will show you when to take a break? It's like, you don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and then it's like, oh, you don't want to listen to it. All right, now you'll have a physical ailment, so then you're all bets are off. You're like, I don't want to do anything else but take care of myself. Never mind, I don't care about anyone else.
You did a good job. I got to tell you something. The healers, all of us, should not be doing this work unless we're doing healing on ourselves at the same time.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you something. I wish I had seen what you did where you just said, I'm stopping and I'm going to learn how to heal myself.
Well, yeah.
Instead, I tried to do it while I was mixing in 92
I was too
other
afraid.
things.
I couldn't. I was I was more afraid to give people bad advice. That's what it is. I was more afraid that I would tell someone, you should go jump off a bridge, rather than, be clear and be in a clear mind and give them sound, authentic advice rather than something where their thought was. Because if you can't tell if they're not in a good place, and it's their thought that is in a good place, and you can't tell the difference between their thought and what's reality, what you're getting or receiving from them, then you want to take a break. It kind of forces you to take a break. It was forced. Nice. And then I said, I'm never doing that.
Nope.
That was too much. So I've learned to back off a little bit, but I like to work. I like to be a worker, so a lot of physical work, and then I go, oh no, that's not. Shouldn't do that when you're not feeling fantastic. So. But
I got to tell you where you brought, because I remember when you had reached a point when everything was opening up where you were afraid you were crazy.
Well, yeah, because it was
I
everything.
Remember that point. And to this very confident healer.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful, beautiful place that you came to.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. I'm also appreciative of that space because I feel like, it was so much at once. But I also, I had just come from surgery. I was in a relationship that didn't feel nice to me, that was splitting. I was, my house was being remodeled in the middle of all of this stuff. And it was a lot, and I was asking a lot for a purpose. I want a purpose, I want a purpose, So they just said, you want a purpose, we're going to give it to you. Just get out of the way. And I did, and then it all came flowing in, which was a lot.
Well, I do think when we have these gifts, that if we don't follow through with them, they do kick us in the butt.
Yes.
Because I've had a few kicks in the butt.
And I also feel like, anybody who does anything like this has also had the other end to have it be in so much appreciation because your connection becomes so strong from your own ask, your own feeling of wanting to be there. And if that's something that anyone wants to do, it's really important for you to just sit there and allow it in, allow that connection to take place and believe it. Because if you don't believe it, then you're not really confident about the belief in it. And I really didn't have that. A lot of people ask me that too, is how do I become more connected? Do you get that question a lot?
I get that question constantly.
Yeah.
I had a girl just before I left for here.
Yeah.
That was asking me that exact question.
And it's simple. The answer is you just have to become really confident about having it and don't believe anything else. And
I think the other thing too is to be around and associate with as many like-minded people as possible raises it. So even getting together for the show, we go out and we have a bite and we hang out. I think that raises our level and respect as well. But it's also, you have to take your ego and stick it where the sun doesn't shine, literally. Because
you get shown.
It was so funny because when I moved into the new place, around that time I discovered that in the corporate world, I could tell all the men what to do, and I could figure out how to get everything to get done, and I was the fixer. And my ego loved that, because I was in a construction men's world, and my ego loved that I could do that. All of a sudden one day, I said to my boss, it's getting time for me to leave. And he goes, why? I go, I don't need it anymore. And he looked at me, and I explained it to him, and I said, and you have to have that adrenaline rush constantly, so you never let anything level off. You have to increase. And I don't need that anymore. And as that was said, my readings became so beautiful, because when a client says to me, I don't think that at all, you're wrong. I don't know that person.
You don't want to take that personally.
And I just turn to them and I say, take it with you. Take it with you. And the number of emails and texts and calls I've gotten. But my favorite one was Jeremy and I did readings at a bridal shower, and the bride he knew too well. And it was before he got a life, so that he didn't know how to interpret, but he was brilliant. So I helped him with the other readings. And the bride, I turned around and said, you're going to get pregnant on your honeymoon. Well, she had her tubes tied, and she got mad with me. And I mean, I left there like before I got shot. Do you know what I mean? She was so angry. So I'm in Old Navy with one of my grandchildren, and all of a sudden, this stroller comes up, and I told her it was a little boy, what it was going to look like. It was really defined details. And she turned around and she said, conceived on my honeymoon. This is the boy. And she had gotten so angry with me for stating that. And it happened. But you've got to reach a point where you realize the information's not coming from you. And
well,
they know what they're
asking. They do. And I feel like you're asking for something. It'll either push you one way or the other. But I find that, I've told a lot of people, you're going to move, or you're not going to stay with your partner. And, because I like to be honest, which sometimes shoots yourself in the foot. And they make a decision based on that, right? Because if someone tells you something, you choose at that point, do I want this or do I not? And at that point, I think then it's your choice. So when you said that about the baby, don't you feel like she said to herself, well, after she became angry, don't you feel like she was like, well, I could see myself having a baby, and then it kind of came together to where otherwise she could have just shut herself off.
And I did good. I didn't tell her that I saw the marriage wasn't going to work either.
Right.
And that happened too, she told me, but I didn't tell her that.
Well, because then it's no fun. You feel like then you don't want to have the baby, and the baby's the part of the fun.
That was a part of the purpose. They were supposed to get together to make that beautiful little boy, you know. So it is a trip. Now, besides doing the readings, and you do both psychic and mediumship readings, correct?
I try to explain psychic a little bit different now, I think.
Yeah, tell me how you explain it.
Well, because sometimes you can be so resistant that you're not going to attract it. You're not going to, it's there. It's there. It's just you have to kind of...
I always explain it the power of choice.
Yes.
There is a power of choice.
That's how I explain
it. Because I have a daughter that if you told her that something wasn't going to work, she's going to try to make you wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And make it happen.
Yes.
And then eventually it happens.
Well,
but
they've told me that a million times. They're like, well, you know, the house is right there. And I go, oh, okay, I know the house is right there. And I really feel the house is there. But for a long time I was going, where is it? And I'm probably driving by it every single day. You know, you just drive right back. But they said, if we tell you, you won't go. And I'm like, well, that's true. That's true. If they tell me, I won't, because I'm stubborn like that. And if they said, you know, go right into Cumberland Farms, that person's going to tell you this, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go, well, maybe not today, and I'll just go right back. Yeah. So some things are better off not said, because you always get what you want.
And I have running water that stands right with me, and I ask them because, you know, I don't have a whole lot of filters. Yeah. So I have them help me with filters.
I do that
and decide
too.
what has to be said. So in here, besides doing that, you also do some psychic development classes. So explain what you do in the psychic development classes.
I really teach people to meditate and try to listen, because they have, sometimes, I'm sure it lines up with me and the time. So I teach people to just really listen to themselves, because that's where the empowerment is. A lot of times people come to us, and I feel very grateful that they're coming, right? But also, you know, if they keep coming, they're seeking something. So to me, I would feel nicer for myself to teach also empowerment, so that you can kind of work that in. I love when they come back, you know, and ask me questions, because I think it's fun, and I enjoy talking to them and asking them funny things, you know. But I feel like if we all could feel a little empowered, it'd feel really nice. And
perfect.
I still have questions. I still, you know, ask them questions and go, well, they're not going to answer me. I'm going to go, you know, on TikTok and listen to this person talking about reading on here, and they'll tell me if you don't tell me. And then they tell me, and I go, oh, I wish they didn't tell me. What does this mean? What does this mean?
Lyndsey also wants, if you want to get in touch with her, she wants you to go through me. So if you contact me or the Mindz Eye, message me, I will make sure that you can get in touch with Lyndsey. She's done a lot of work on herself. When she first came to me, she was a little bit of a hot mess, even though I loved her from the minute. But she was a little bit of a hot mess, and she's done so much work on herself. And those are the healers that you want to do. You don't want to have the healers that, you know, just...
Well, because you don't know where it's coming from either. Because if you don't heal the stuff that's in your life, you don't know if that part is kind of merging into your part or your session, which is, I believe, is still going to always be beneficial. Because I've been to a lot of people that when this first started, thankfully Jeremy and I found you, but before that it was a lot of confusion. But you know, I was in confusion, so.
You were in confusion, but as I said, you've come a long way, baby, and and I know you've helped quite a few people. So that is excellent. I thank you so much for coming here. You were. We haven't got a chance to see each other, so this was a good excuse for me to lure her in, because I've missed her.
Through work, mostly everyone does. They're like, so I have this thing for work.
But I have we had a scheduling problem, so we could never seem to get together. So we made it a purpose. So that worked out really good. So if you want to get a hold of Lyndsey, please contact me, and I will love contacting her, because I always do. And I thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And if we got to start finding ways to connect a little bit more, because too much time has passed since the last time. And I do know you're a beautiful reader and a beautiful human being, and you care so much about other people. I'm glad that you're doing it to it. So. Anyway, give me a call and I'll connect you to Lyndsey, and I'm so glad the law of attraction, that was an excellent big part of the topic. So thank you, and have a great day.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.